Title: How to Bounce Back Stronger After Setbacks by AI Audiobooks Empire. Introduction. Have you ever felt like life knocked the wind out of you just when you thought you were making progress? Maybe it was a job you didn't get after weeks of preparation. Maybe it was a relationship that ended without the closure you hoped for. Perhaps you started a dream business that quietly faded away. Or you poured your heart into a goal only to watch everything fall apart in a matter of days. Those moments have a way of making us question everything. Was I good enough? Should I even keep trying? What if this is as far as I'll ever go? The hardest part about setbacks isn't always the event itself. It's the story we begin telling ourselves afterward. We replay mistakes. We imagine worst-case scenarios. We compare ourselves to people who seem to be moving forward while we feel stuck in place. But what if setbacks aren't signs that you're moving in the wrong direction? What if they're evidence that you're willing to pursue something meaningful? Think about a tree standing through countless storms. Every strong wind bends its branches. Every season strips away old leaves. From a distance, those storms look destructive. Yet beneath the surface, the roots grow deeper. The tree becomes stronger because of what it survives, not because life was easy. People grow the same way. Strength isn't built during comfortable seasons. It develops when plans fail, confidence is tested, and the future feels uncertain. Those difficult chapters often become the very moments that shape wiser decisions, stronger character, and greater resilience. Imagine yourself 1 year from today. The challenges you're facing now are behind you. The disappointment no longer defines your story. Instead, you've learned how to recover faster, think differently, and approach obstacles with calm confidence. Instead of fearing failure, you've learned to use it as fuel. That version of you isn't created by avoiding setbacks. It's created by learning how to rise after every fall. Throughout this audiobook, you'll discover practical tools, fresh perspectives, and powerful habits that can help transform setbacks into stepping stones. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you'll become stronger, wiser, and more adaptable with every challenge you face. If you've ever wondered whether you can recover from disappointment, rebuild your confidence, and move forward with renewed purpose, then you're exactly where you need to be. Let's begin this journey together. Welcome, and thank you for spending part of your day with us. Here on this channel, we share motivational and personal development audiobooks designed to help you grow, overcome life's challenges, and become the strongest version of yourself, one meaningful lesson at a time. Whether you're listening during your morning routine, your commute, a workout, or simply taking a quiet moment for yourself, we're grateful that you've chosen to be here. Today's audiobook explores one of the most important skills anyone can develop, the ability to recover after life doesn't go according to plan. So find a comfortable place, take a deep breath, and let's begin. No one plans for setbacks. No child grows up dreaming about failure. No entrepreneur starts a business expecting to struggle. No athlete trains hoping to lose. No one enters a relationship expecting heartbreak. Yet setbacks touch every life. They arrive without permission and often without warning. Sometimes they're dramatic: a sudden job loss, a financial crisis, a serious illness, or the end of something you deeply valued. Other times they're quieter: A missed opportunity. A goal that slowly slips away. A promise you made to yourself but couldn't keep. A season where nothing seems to work despite your best efforts. What makes setbacks so difficult isn't just what happens. It's what they can do to our mindset. One disappointment can make us hesitate. Several disappointments can convince us to stop trying altogether. Over time, fear begins replacing curiosity. Doubt replaces confidence. Survival replaces growth. But here's an important truth. Your future is not determined by how many setbacks you experience. It's shaped by how you respond to them. Some people experience enormous failures and eventually build remarkable lives. Others face relatively small disappointments, yet spend years trapped by fear because they never learned how to recover emotionally, mentally, and practically. Resilience isn't something people are simply born with. It's a skill. Like any skill, it can be developed. Throughout this audiobook, we'll explore what setbacks really mean, why they affect us so deeply, and, most importantly, how to respond in ways that make us stronger instead of more discouraged. You'll learn how to manage difficult emotions without letting them control your decisions. You'll discover how to rebuild confidence after failure, develop healthier thinking patterns, strengthen daily habits, and create a mindset that views obstacles as opportunities for growth rather than permanent defeats. Along the way, we'll use relatable stories, practical examples, thoughtful reflections, and realistic action steps that you can begin applying immediately. This isn't about pretending life is always positive. It's about becoming someone who can face reality honestly while still choosing hope, wisdom, and forward movement. I encourage you to stay with this audiobook until the very end. Each chapter builds naturally on the previous one, gradually giving you a complete framework for becoming more resilient in every area of your life. By the end of our journey together, setbacks may not disappear, but they won't have the same power over you. Because you'll know something you may not fully believe yet. Every setback carries the possibility of becoming the foundation for your next breakthrough. And that journey begins with understanding one simple but life-changing truth. Not every ending is the end of your story. Chapter 1: The Hidden Purpose of Setbacks. Introduction. Think back to a time when something important didn't go the way you planned. Perhaps you invested months preparing for an opportunity, only to watch it slip away. Maybe you trusted someone who let you down. Or perhaps you simply reached a point where you wondered whether all your effort had been worth it. In those moments, it's natural to ask, why did this happen? But there is another question that can be even more powerful. What can this experience teach me that success never could? Setbacks have a way of interrupting our plans, but they also interrupt our assumptions. They expose habits that need changing, reveal strengths we didn't know we had, and challenge us to grow in ways comfort never demands. This chapter isn't about pretending setbacks are pleasant. They're often painful, frustrating, and deeply disappointing. But when we begin to understand their hidden purpose, we stop seeing them only as obstacles and start recognizing them as teachers. Let's explore why setbacks are not the end of your story, but often the beginning of a stronger one. Main lesson. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. You carefully plan your route, pack everything you need, and begin the journey with excitement. The weather is clear, your energy is high, and every step brings you closer to the summit. Then, halfway up, a storm rolls in. The trail becomes slippery. Visibility disappears. Progress slows to a crawl. You may even have to stop and wait until it's safe to continue. At first glance, the storm feels like nothing more than an interruption. But if you make it through, you'll likely discover something surprising. The climb after the storm changes you. You become more alert, more patient, more resourceful. You learn how to adapt instead of relying on perfect conditions. Life works much the same way. Most people love success because it confirms what they're already doing. Success feels rewarding, and rightly so. But success can also hide weaknesses. When things are going well, we rarely question our routines, attitudes, or assumptions. Setbacks force us to look closer. They ask questions we might otherwise ignore. Was my plan realistic? Did I prepare enough? Was I relying too heavily on circumstances I couldn't control? Did I define my worth by one outcome? These questions aren't comfortable, but they are valuable. Consider a young professional named Daniel. After graduating from college, Daniel landed what he believed was his dream job. He imagined spending years climbing the corporate ladder, earning promotions, and building a stable future. Then, less than a year later, the company went through major restructuring. His department was eliminated, and he suddenly found himself unemployed. At first, Daniel saw only failure. He questioned his abilities and worried that he had somehow fallen behind everyone else. But as weeks passed, he began reflecting on what he truly enjoyed. During his previous job, he had discovered a passion for solving problems creatively and helping clients directly. He realized that while the job itself had ended, the skills he developed were still his. Instead of searching for an identical position, Daniel explored a new field where those skills were even more valuable. Within a year, he found work that was more fulfilling than the job he had lost. Looking back, losing that position wasn't the moment his future collapsed. It was the moment his future changed direction. How often do we confuse a closed door with the end of the hallway? Sometimes life redirects us not because we've failed, but because we've outgrown where we were. Of course, not every setback leads to an obvious opportunity right away. Some lessons take time. A failed project may teach persistence. A difficult conversation may teach better communication. A financial mistake may teach wiser decision-making. A personal disappointment may deepen compassion for others. Growth is often invisible while it's happening. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No one succeeds without wobbling. Falling isn't proof that you'll never learn. In fact, every small fall teaches your body how to balance more effectively. Imagine if someone quit after the very first fall, believing they simply weren't meant to ride. It would sound unreasonable. Yet many of us do something similar in life. One rejection convinces us we're not talented enough. One mistake convinces us we're not capable. One setback convinces us we're not meant for success. But one experience doesn't define your potential. Potential is revealed through persistence. History is filled with examples of people whose greatest achievements were shaped by early disappointments. Inventors refined countless failed experiments before discovering what worked. Athletes recovered from devastating losses before becoming champions. Entrepreneurs watched businesses collapse before building lasting companies. What separated them from everyone else wasn't the absence of setbacks. It was their willingness to keep learning. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine a potter shaping clay on a wheel. As the clay spins, the potter constantly presses, reshapes, smooths, and adjusts. If the clay could speak, it might complain about the pressure. But without that pressure, the clay would never become something beautiful or useful. Life often shapes us in similar ways. Pressure develops patience. Challenges build endurance. Disappointment teaches humility. Failure encourages creativity. None of these qualities appear overnight, and none of them grow without difficulty. Another hidden purpose of setbacks is that they reveal what truly matters. When life becomes uncertain, we often discover which relationships are genuine, which priorities deserve our attention, and which goals align with our deepest values. Sometimes a setback strips away distractions. It forces us to ask, what kind of person do I want to become? Notice that question focuses on character rather than circumstances. While circumstances change, character remains. Your job may change. Your income may fluctuate. Your plans may evolve. But qualities like resilience, honesty, patience, courage, and kindness stay with you wherever life takes you. Those qualities become your greatest advantage because no setback can permanently take them away. There is another important lesson hidden inside setbacks. They remind us that life is rarely a straight line. Many people imagine success as a steady climb upward. In reality, growth often looks more like a winding path with unexpected turns, temporary setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. Progress is not measured only by reaching milestones. Sometimes progress means becoming the kind of person who can handle greater responsibility when the opportunity finally arrives. If success arrived before we developed the wisdom to manage it, we might lose it just as quickly. Growth prepares us for what achievement alone cannot. The next time life doesn't unfold according to your expectations, try resisting the urge to immediately label the experience as good or bad. Instead, become curious. Ask yourself, what is this experience trying to teach me? What strength is this challenge inviting me to develop? How might this setback prepare me for something I cannot yet see? Those questions won't erase disappointment, but they can transform disappointment into growth. And growth always has lasting value. Reflection. Take a quiet moment to think about a setback that still lingers in your mind. Perhaps it's something recent, or maybe it's an experience from years ago that still influences how you see yourself. Now gently ask yourself, what lesson did that experience teach me? Did it reveal a strength I hadn't recognized before? Have I been focusing more on what I lost than on what I gained? If I viewed that setback as a teacher instead of an enemy, what would change? What part of my story might still be unfolding? Allow yourself to answer honestly. There are no perfect responses, only opportunities for deeper understanding. Action step. Today, beginner lessons from the Storm Journal. Choose one setback from your life and write about it for 10 to 15 minutes. Divide the page into 2 columns. On the left, write, what happened? Describe the event without judgment. On the right. What has this experience taught me? List every lesson you can think of, even if it seems small. You may be surprised to discover that what once felt like only a painful memory also became a source of wisdom, strength, or clarity. Keep this journal. As you continue through this audiobook, you'll return to it and see your experiences in an entirely new light. Key takeaways. Setbacks often reveal lessons that success cannot teach. A difficult season can become the beginning of unexpected growth. Your response to adversity matters more than the adversity itself. Character is built through challenges, not comfort. Curiosity transforms setbacks into opportunities for learning. Inspirational closing. A setback doesn't ask whether you're ready. It simply arrives. But every time you choose to learn instead of surrender, you quietly become someone stronger than you were before. One day, you'll look back and realize that what felt like life pushing against you was often life preparing you for what came next. Understanding that setbacks have purpose is an important first step. But knowing this doesn't erase the emotions that follow disappointment. Even when we recognize there's something to learn, we still experience frustration, sadness, fear, and self-doubt. Before we can move forward with confidence, we need to understand what happens inside us after life knocks us down, and how to respond in a healthy way. In the next chapter, we'll explore the emotional aftermath of setbacks and why allowing yourself to feel is the first step toward genuine recovery. Chapter 2. The Emotional Aftermath. Healing Before Rebuilding. Introduction. Rebuild a house immediately after a powerful storm. The rain has barely stopped. The ground is still unstable. Broken branches and scattered debris cover everything. If you rush into rebuilding without first clearing the damage, even the strongest materials won't create a stable home. The same is true after a setback. Many people believe resilience means ignoring pain, pushing emotions aside, and pretending everything is fine. We often hear phrases like, "just stay positive," or "move on." While these words may be well-intentioned, they can unintentionally encourage us to suppress what we're really feeling. Real resilience doesn't begin by pretending nothing happened. It begins by honestly acknowledging what did happen. Before you can rebuild your confidence, your dreams, or your direction, you must first give yourself permission to heal. In this chapter, we'll explore why emotions are not obstacles to recovery. They're part of the recovery process. You'll learn how to navigate disappointment without becoming trapped by it, and how emotional honesty can become one of your greatest strengths. Main lesson. Think about the last time you accidentally touched something hot. Your hand immediately pulled away. That pain wasn't your enemy. It was your body's way of protecting you. Emotional pain works in a similar way. When you experience rejection, failure, betrayal, or loss, the sadness, frustration, or disappointment you feel is not proof that you're weak. It's a signal that something meaningful has happened. The problem begins when we misunderstand that signal. Some people try to silence their emotions by staying constantly busy. They fill every moment with work, entertainment, or responsibilities, so they never have to sit quietly with their thoughts. Others convince themselves they shouldn't feel hurt at all. I should be stronger. Other people have it worse. I'll just get over it. But emotions that are ignored rarely disappear. Instead, they often show up in different ways: irritability, exhaustion, anxiety, lack of motivation, or difficulty trusting yourself again. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day. At first, you barely notice the weight, but after weeks or months, your shoulders ache, your posture changes, and every step feels harder. Unprocessed emotions are like that backpack. The longer you carry them without unpacking, the heavier they become. Consider the story of Maya. She spent years building a small bakery that she loved. It wasn't just a business, it was the realization of a lifelong dream. Then an unexpected financial crisis forced her to close the doors. Friends encouraged her to look on the bright side and immediately start something new. She smiled politely, but inside she felt devastated. For months, she avoided talking about what happened. She threw herself into temporary jobs, hoping constant activity would erase the disappointment. It didn't. One evening, while sorting through old recipes, she finally allowed herself to cry. Not because she was giving up, but because she was acknowledging what she had lost. That moment became a turning point. By facing her emotions instead of running from them, she slowly regained the energy to dream again. She eventually started teaching baking classes from her home, combining her love for baking with mentoring others. Healing didn't happen because she ignored the pain. Healing began because she accepted it. Many of us have been taught that strength means never showing vulnerability. Yet think about physical healing. If you break your leg, you don't pretend nothing happened. You seek treatment, allow time for recovery, and gradually regain your strength. No one would call that weakness. Why should emotional healing be any different? Acknowledging your emotions isn't the same as letting them control you. There's an important distinction. Imagine you're driving a car through heavy rain. The rain affects your visibility, but you remain behind the steering wheel. Your emotions are like the weather. Some days they're calm. Some days they're stormy. You can't always control the weather, but you can learn how to drive through it safely. The goal isn't to eliminate difficult emotions. The goal is to respond to them wisely. One helpful practice is naming what you're feeling. Instead of saying, "everything is terrible," try being more specific. I feel disappointed. I feel embarrassed. I feel uncertain. I feel afraid of failing again. Research and experience alike suggest that putting words to emotions often reduces their intensity. Naming your feelings creates space between you and the emotion. Instead of being completely overwhelmed, you begin observing your experience with greater clarity. Another important step is recognizing that emotions are temporary. Think of the ocean. Waves rise. They crash. Then they retreat. No wave lasts forever. Your emotional life follows a similar rhythm. Some days you'll feel hopeful. Other days discouragement may return unexpectedly. That doesn't mean you're moving backward. Healing is rarely a straight line. It's more like walking up a winding trail. There are moments when the path curves, and it seems as though you're heading in the wrong direction. But as long as you're continuing to move, you're still making progress. It's also helpful to separate facts from stories. Imagine two people who both lose an important opportunity. The first person says, "This didn't work, so I'll learn what I can and keep improving." The second person says, "This proves I'll never succeed." Notice that both experience the same event. The difference lies in the story they attached to it. Facts describe reality. Stories interpret reality. Learning to distinguish between the two is one of the most powerful emotional skills you can develop. Here's another example. Suppose you apply for 5 jobs and receive 5 rejections. The facts are simple. You applied. You were not selected. Everything else, "I'm not capable, no one will ever hire me, I'm a failure," is a story your mind creates. And stories can be rewritten. Another valuable part of healing is allowing yourself to receive support. Many people believe they must handle everything alone. But think about climbing a steep mountain. Even experienced climbers rely on teammates, guides, and encouragement. Asking for help doesn't mean you failed. It means you're wise enough to recognize that healing often happens in connection with others. Support can come from a trusted friend, a family member, a mentor, a counselor, or even a quiet conversation with someone who simply listens without trying to solve everything. Sometimes the greatest gift another person can offer is not advice, but presence. There is also healing in self-compassion. Imagine your closest friend experiences the same setback you're facing. Would you tell them they're worthless? Would you remind them only of their mistakes? Probably not. You would likely offer patience, understanding, and encouragement. So why do we often speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to someone we love? Self-compassion isn't making excuses. It's recognizing that being human means making mistakes, facing disappointments, and continuing to grow despite them. The way you speak to yourself matters. Every encouraging thought becomes another brick in the foundation you're rebuilding. Every harsh criticism removes one. As you move forward, remember this. Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about reaching a place where the memory no longer controls your future. The setback becomes part of your story, but it no longer becomes your identity. And that distinction changes everything. Reflection. Take a few quiet moments and ask yourself, what emotion have I been trying to avoid since my setback? Am I allowing myself to feel, or am I trying to outrun my emotions? What story have I been telling myself about this experience? If I replaced self-criticism with self-compassion, how would my perspective change? Who could I talk to if I needed support? Be honest with yourself. Healing begins with honesty, not perfection. Action step. Today, practice what you might call an emotional check-in. Set aside 10 uninterrupted minutes. Take a notebook and complete these 3 sentences. Right now, I feel. The reason I feel this way is. Today, I will show kindness to myself by. Don't judge your answers. Simply notice them. This small habit can help you become more aware of your emotional world instead of being controlled by it. Over time, emotional awareness becomes emotional strength. Key takeaways. Healing begins by acknowledging your emotions, not suppressing them. Your feelings are real, but they are temporary. Separate facts from the negative stories your mind creates. Self-compassion builds resilience more effectively than self-criticism. Seeking support is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Inspirational closing. A wound doesn't heal because we ignore it. It heals because we care for it with patience, consistency, and time. Your heart deserves that same care. Every honest emotion you face today becomes another step toward the stronger person you're becoming tomorrow. Once we've allowed ourselves to heal emotionally, another challenge often appears. The setback may be behind us, but the voice in our mind remains. It whispers that we're not capable, that we'll fail again, or that it's safer not to try at all. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to quiet that inner critic, rebuild self-belief, and develop the kind of confidence that isn't based on never falling, but on knowing you can rise again. Chapter 3: Rebuilding Confidence One Step at a Time. Introduction. After a setback, one of the first things we often lose isn't our job, our opportunity, or even our plan. It's our confidence. A single disappointing experience can make us question abilities that we once trusted. Suddenly, tasks that used to feel manageable seem intimidating. Decisions become harder. Risks feel bigger. Even small challenges can trigger memories of past failures. Confidence can feel fragile because we often mistake it for certainty. We think confident people never doubt themselves. We imagine they always know exactly what to do. But that's rarely true. Real confidence isn't the absence of uncertainty. It's the willingness to keep moving even when certainty is impossible. In this chapter, we'll explore how confidence is built, not through one dramatic breakthrough, but through small, consistent actions that gradually change the way you see yourself. If you've ever wondered how to believe in yourself again after life has shaken your faith, this chapter is for you. Main lesson. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a frozen lake. You've never walked across ice before. Someone tells you it's safe, but you're still hesitant. Would you sprint across it? Probably not. Most people would take one careful step, then another. With each step, confidence grows, not because the fear instantly disappears, but because experience begins replacing uncertainty. Life works the same way. Confidence grows through evidence. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence. Every challenge you face becomes evidence. Every small victory becomes another reason to believe, maybe I can do this. Unfortunately, after a setback, we often collect evidence in the opposite direction. We replay our mistakes. We remember the embarrassing moments. We focus on what went wrong. It's like looking through a photo album that contains only your worst days. If that's all you ever review, you'll naturally believe those moments define your life. But they don't. Consider a man named Victor. Victor had always enjoyed public speaking. He wasn't famous or professionally trained, but he loved sharing ideas at community events. Then one evening, during an important presentation, his mind went completely blank. He forgot his notes. He stumbled through several sentences. The audience waited awkwardly while he tried to recover. Although most people quickly forgot about the incident, Victor didn't. For months afterward, he refused every invitation to speak. He told himself, "I'm terrible at this." Eventually, a friend encouraged him to volunteer for a much smaller event, a gathering of only 10 people. Victor reluctantly agreed. He prepared carefully. The presentation wasn't perfect, but it went well. Then he accepted another opportunity, and another. Over time, something interesting happened. His confidence didn't return because he erased the memory of failure. It returned because he created new memories that were stronger than the old one. This illustrates an important truth. Confidence isn't built by thinking differently first. It's built by acting differently until your thinking begins to change. Many people wait to feel confident before taking action. But confidence usually comes after action, not before it. Think about learning to swim. You don't gain confidence by standing on the edge of the pool imagining yourself swimming. You gain confidence by entering the water, practicing, making mistakes, and gradually improving. The same principle applies to almost every area of life. Whether you're rebuilding a career, repairing relationships, starting a business, or pursuing a personal goal, confidence grows through participation, not perfection. One reason setbacks damage confidence is that we begin confusing performance with identity. Suppose you bake a cake that doesn't turn out well. The outcome tells you something about that cake. It doesn't tell you everything about your ability as a baker. Yet after failure, our minds often leap from "I failed" to "I am a failure." Those two statements are worlds apart. The first describes an event. The second defines a person. Never allow a temporary experience to become a permanent identity. Instead, try changing your language. Rather than saying, "I can't do this," say, "I can't do this yet." That one small word, "yet," changes everything. It leaves room for growth. It reminds you that skills improve. Knowledge expands. Experience accumulates. Progress remains possible. Another practical way to rebuild confidence is through what psychologists sometimes call small wins. Imagine trying to push a large boulder. At first, it barely moves. But every push creates momentum. Eventually, what seemed impossible begins rolling forward. Small victories create similar momentum. Suppose you've lost confidence in your ability to exercise regularly. Don't begin by committing to 2 hours every day. Start with a 10-minute walk. Complete it. Tomorrow, do it again. Each completed action sends a quiet message to your brain. I'm becoming someone who follows through. Those messages matter. Identity is shaped by repeated behavior. Think of a mason building a stone wall. He doesn't place all the stones at once. He carefully lays one stone after another. Eventually, a strong wall appears. Confidence is built the same way. One promise kept. One difficult conversation completed. One application submitted. One healthy habit repeated. One fear faced. These individual moments may seem insignificant. Together, they become the foundation of lasting self-belief. It's also important to remember that comparison quietly erodes confidence. Imagine two hikers climbing different mountains. One constantly looks at the other person's progress. The second focuses on the next step in front of them. Who is more likely to enjoy the journey? Who is more likely to keep moving? Comparison shifts your attention away from your own growth. Progress brings it back. Instead of asking, "Why am I not as successful as them?" ask, "Am I stronger than I was 6 months ago?" That's a far more useful question. Confidence grows when you notice your own progress rather than measuring yourself against someone else's timeline. Another helpful practice is celebrating effort, not only outcomes. Imagine a child learning to read. Every attempt matters. Every improvement deserves encouragement. Adults often forget to offer themselves that same grace. You completed a difficult task. Celebrate it. You tried something despite fear. Celebrate it. You recovered more quickly than you would have last year. Celebrate that too. Acknowledging progress isn't arrogance. It's reinforcement. Your brain pays attention to what you repeatedly notice. If you constantly notice mistakes, you'll feel discouraged. If you also notice growth, you'll become more motivated to continue. Finally, remember that confidence doesn't eliminate fear. Even experienced leaders, athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs still experience moments of doubt. The difference is that they've learned something valuable. They no longer ask, "What if I fail?" Instead, they ask, "If I do fail, can I learn, recover, and try again?" Once you know the answer is yes, fear loses much of its power. Because confidence isn't believing you'll never fall. It's trusting yourself to get back up. Reflection. Take a quiet moment to think about these questions. When did I begin doubting myself? What evidence am I using to support those doubts? Have I overlooked moments that prove I am stronger or more capable than I realize? What's one small action I can take this week to rebuild trust in myself? If I stopped comparing my journey to others, what progress would I finally notice? Remember, confidence doesn't appear overnight. It grows through honest reflection followed by consistent action. Action step. Today, create a confidence evidence list. On a blank page, write down at least 20 things you've accomplished in your life. They don't need to be extraordinary. Include moments such as learning a new skill, helping someone through a difficult time, finishing a project, overcoming a fear, keeping a promise to yourself, recovering from a previous setback. Whenever self-doubt appears, return to this list. Let it remind you that your life contains far more evidence of resilience than your inner critic wants you to believe. Then, choose one small challenge you've been avoiding and commit to taking the first step within the next 24 hours. Key takeaways. Confidence is built through action, not waiting for certainty. Never confuse a failed event with your identity. Small, consistent wins create lasting self-belief. Compare yourself to your past self, not someone else's present. Confidence grows each time you keep a promise to yourself. Inspirational closing. Confidence isn't a gift that appears one morning. It's a quiet friendship you build with yourself. Every time you choose courage over comfort, action over hesitation, and growth over perfection, that friendship becomes stronger. One day, you'll look back and realize you didn't suddenly become confident. You became someone who kept showing up, even when it was hard. And that made all the difference. As confidence begins to return, another question naturally arises. How do you prevent the same setback from keeping you stuck? The answer lies in something even more powerful than confidence, your mindset. In the next chapter, we'll explore how the way you interpret challenges shapes your future, and how adopting a growth-oriented perspective can turn life's obstacles into opportunities for lasting transformation. Chapter 4: Choosing a Growth Mindset Over a Defeat Mindset. Introduction. Imagine two people standing at the base of the same mountain. Both are healthy, both have similar experience. Both have the same map and the same goal. A few hours into the climb, they encounter a steep section of loose rocks. It's difficult, tiring, and slower than either of them expected. The first person says, "This proves I'm not cut out for this." The second person says, "This part is harder than I expected, but I'll learn how to climb it." The mountain hasn't changed. The difference lies in the way each person interprets the challenge. The same is true after a setback. Two people can experience nearly identical disappointments and walk away with completely different futures. One becomes discouraged and gives up. The other grows wiser, adjusts the plan, and continues moving forward. The event matters, but the meaning we assign to the event often matters even more. In this chapter, we'll explore the power of mindset, how your perspective shapes your resilience, your decisions, and ultimately, the life you create after a setback. Main lesson. Imagine you're wearing a pair of glasses with scratched lenses. No matter how beautiful the landscape is, everything appears distorted. The problem isn't the world around you. It's the lens through which you're viewing it. Our mindset works much the same way. It becomes the lens through which we interpret every success, every mistake, every opportunity, and every setback. A defeat mindset tends to believe that abilities are fixed. It quietly whispers, "This is who I am. I've always been this way. If I failed once, I'll probably fail again." A growth mindset speaks differently. It says, "This is where I am today. I still have more to learn. My current abilities are not my final abilities." Notice the difference. One mindset closes the door. The other leaves it open. Let's consider the story of Elena. Elena had always dreamed of starting her own online business. She spent months creating products, building a website, and preparing for launch. She imagined customers arriving immediately. Instead, the first month brought only a handful of sales. The second month wasn't much better. By the third month, she began questioning herself. Her defeat mindset whispered, "You're not an entrepreneur. Successful people don't struggle like this. Maybe you're wasting your time." Fortunately, before giving up, she decided to ask a different question. Instead of asking, "Why am I failing?" she asked, "What can I improve?" That single shift changed everything. She realized her products were valuable, but her marketing needed work. She took time to learn new skills, listened to customer feedback, improved her communication, and slowly built momentum. Within 2 years, her business became profitable. Looking back, she realized the biggest obstacle wasn't low sales. It was the belief that early struggles meant permanent failure. How many dreams are abandoned because people mistake the beginning of the journey for the end? A growth mindset reminds us that beginnings are often messy. Think about learning a new language. At first, every conversation feels awkward. You search for words. You mispronounce sentences. You make mistakes that feel embarrassing. But no one expects fluency on the first day. Why, then, do we expect instant mastery in other areas of life? Whether it's building a career, strengthening relationships, improving finances, or developing healthier habits, progress follows the same pattern. Beginners struggle. Learners improve. Consistent practice creates excellence. The problem isn't struggling. The problem is believing struggle means you should stop. Here's another analogy. Imagine planting a seed. For days, nothing appears above the ground. If you judge the seed by what you could immediately see, you might conclude that nothing is happening. Yet beneath the surface, roots are growing. The invisible work comes first. Personal growth often happens in exactly the same way. You may not immediately notice changes in your confidence, discipline, or emotional resilience. But every healthy choice strengthens roots that will eventually support visible growth. One danger after setbacks is something psychologists sometimes call learned helplessness. Imagine a dog tied to a short rope for a long time. Eventually, even after the rope is removed, it may hesitate to wander because it has learned to expect limitation. People can develop similar patterns. After repeated disappointments, we sometimes stop trying, not because opportunities no longer exist, but because we've convinced ourselves that effort no longer matters. This is one of the most damaging effects of setbacks. They don't simply challenge our circumstances. They challenge our beliefs. Fortunately, beliefs can change. And they often change through experience. Suppose you've struggled with public speaking. Instead of avoiding every opportunity, you decide to speak for just 2 minutes during a team meeting. You survive. Nothing terrible happens. Next time, you volunteer again. Little by little, your brain gathers new evidence. The belief shifts from, "I can't," to, "I'm learning." Eventually, "I can." Notice that transformation didn't begin with confidence. It began with willingness. Another hallmark of a growth mindset is curiosity. Curious people ask better questions. Instead of saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of saying, "Who should I blame?" they ask, "What can I do differently next time?" These questions redirect energy from frustration toward improvement. Imagine two gardeners. One blames the weather every season. The other studies the soil, adjusts watering habits, experiments with new techniques, and keeps learning. Over time, whose garden is more likely to flourish? Life rewards learners. Not because they avoid mistakes, but because they refuse to waste them. A growth mindset also understands that failure provides information. Imagine assembling a complicated piece of furniture. You accidentally install one part backward. At first, it's frustrating. But the mistake teaches you exactly how the pieces fit together. Your next attempt becomes easier because of the first one. Life often teaches through correction. Every setback contains feedback. Sometimes it reveals a skill you need to strengthen. Sometimes it exposes unrealistic expectations. Sometimes it simply reminds you to slow down and prepare more thoroughly. None of these lessons diminish your worth. They increase your wisdom. Another important shift involves replacing the word failure with the word feedback. This doesn't mean ignoring consequences or pretending mistakes don't matter. It means recognizing that every outcome provides valuable information. Imagine a pilot adjusting course during a long flight. The airplane isn't perfectly aligned every second. Small corrections happen continuously. Without those adjustments, the destination might never be reached. Success rarely comes from one perfect decision. It comes from hundreds of small corrections made over time. Your life is no different. Every lesson learned, every habit adjusted, every mindset improved. These are the quiet course corrections that eventually lead to remarkable destinations. As you continue your journey, remember this. A setback may change your path. It doesn't have to change your potential. Your future remains shaped by what you choose to believe and what you choose to do next. Reflection. Take a few moments to reflect honestly. Ask yourself, when I experience setbacks, what story do I usually tell myself? Do I see challenges as evidence of my limits or opportunities to grow? What skill could I begin developing instead of assuming I simply lack talent? Where in my life have I already grown through practice and persistence? What belief about myself is ready to be replaced with a healthier one? Growth begins the moment you become willing to question the beliefs that have been holding you back. Action step. Today, create a growth language challenge. Throughout the day, pay attention to moments when you catch yourself using limiting statements. For example, I can't do this. I'm just not good at this. I always fail. Each time one appears, rewrite it immediately. Replace it with, I'm still learning. I haven't mastered this yet. This is an opportunity to improve. Every attempt teaches me something valuable. Write down at least 5 examples by the end of the day. Over time, you'll notice that changing your language begins changing your thinking, and changing your thinking begins changing your actions. Key takeaways. Your mindset shapes how you interpret every setback. A growth mindset believes abilities can improve through learning and practice. Setbacks provide feedback, not final verdicts. Curiosity leads to growth, while self-defeat leads to stagnation. Small course corrections, repeated consistently, create extraordinary progress over time. Inspirational closing. The strongest trees aren't those that never faced strong winds. They're the ones that continue growing, season after season, despite every storm. Your growth isn't measured by how easy your path has been. It's measured by your willingness to keep reaching toward the light, even after difficult seasons. That quiet determination is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. A healthy mindset gives us the courage to keep moving forward, but lasting resilience requires more than positive thinking. It requires daily habits that keep us grounded, focused, and prepared for whatever life brings. In the next chapter, we'll explore how small, consistent routines become the invisible foundation that helps you recover faster, stay motivated, and bounce back stronger every time life tests you. Chapter 5. The Power of Small Daily Habits. Introduction. When people think about turning their lives around after a setback, they often imagine one dramatic moment. They picture waking up one morning with renewed determination, making one bold decision, or discovering one life-changing secret that instantly transforms everything. While those moments can be inspiring, they're rarely what creates lasting change. Real transformation usually happens much more quietly. It happens in the ordinary moments. It's choosing to get out of bed even when motivation is low. It's taking a short walk instead of staying on the couch. It's reading a few pages instead of scrolling endlessly through your phone. It's making one healthy choice today, then repeating it tomorrow. The truth is, your life is shaped less by occasional breakthroughs and more by your daily routines. After a setback, habits become especially important because they provide stability when emotions feel unpredictable. They remind you that even if yesterday didn't go well, today still offers another opportunity to move forward. In this chapter, we'll explore how small, consistent habits can help you rebuild momentum, restore confidence, and create lasting resilience, one day at a time. Main lesson. Imagine two people pushing identical bicycles up the same hill. The first person tries to push with all their strength for a few minutes, becomes exhausted, and stops. The second person pushes steadily, taking one step after another without rushing. An hour later, who is more likely to reach the top? The answer isn't the person who worked the hardest for a short time. It's the one who remained consistent. Life rewards consistency more often than intensity. This is especially true after setbacks. When we've experienced disappointment, we often feel pressure to make up for lost time. We tell ourselves things like, "I'm going to completely change my life starting tomorrow. I'm going to wake up at 5 every morning. I'm going to exercise every day, read 2 books a week, learn a new skill, and never waste time again." The enthusiasm feels exciting, but it's usually difficult to sustain. Within a few days or weeks, exhaustion sets in, old habits return, and we feel discouraged all over again. The problem wasn't a lack of desire. It was trying to change everything at once. Think of a gardener planting a tree. The gardener doesn't pour an entire year's worth of water onto the tree in one afternoon. The tree grows because it's watered consistently over time. Personal growth works exactly the same way. Small actions, repeated regularly, create remarkable results. Let's meet someone named Aaron. After losing his job unexpectedly, Aaron felt overwhelmed. His confidence was low, and every day seemed uncertain. At first, he tried to solve everything immediately. He spent hours searching for jobs, rewriting his resume, taking online courses, networking, and worrying about the future. By the end of each day, he felt mentally exhausted. Eventually, a mentor suggested something surprising. "Stop trying to rebuild your entire life today," the mentor said. "Just build a good day." That advice changed Aaron's perspective. Instead of focusing on everything he couldn't control, he created a simple daily routine. Every morning, he woke up at the same time. He exercised for 20 minutes. He spent 2 focused hours applying for jobs. He learned one new professional skill for 30 minutes. In the evening, he reflected on what went well. None of these habits seemed extraordinary, but together they gave his days structure. Within a few months, he found a new job. More importantly, he had rebuilt something even more valuable than employment. He had rebuilt trust in himself. One completed habit after another reminded him that progress was still possible. That's one of the greatest gifts habits provide. They reduce the need for constant motivation. Imagine brushing your teeth. Most days, you don't debate whether or not you should do it. You simply do it because it has become part of your routine. Healthy habits can work the same way. The less energy you spend deciding whether to take positive action, the easier it becomes to maintain that action. After setbacks, routines also create emotional stability. Imagine sailing across the ocean. Some days the sea is calm. Other days powerful waves toss the boat in every direction. A skilled sailor can't control the weather, but they can rely on proven systems that help keep the boat steady. Your daily habits become those systems. When emotions fluctuate, routines provide direction. Another reason small habits matter is that they change your identity. Suppose someone says, "I want to become a writer." That's a wonderful goal. But imagine another person says, "I'm someone who writes for 20 minutes every morning." Notice the difference. The first statement describes a dream. The second describes an identity supported by behavior. Every habit quietly answers the question, "Who am I becoming?" Every healthy meal says, "I'm becoming someone who cares for my health." Every chapter you read says, "I'm becoming someone who continues learning." Every difficult conversation handled with honesty says, "I'm becoming someone who faces problems instead of avoiding them." Identity grows through repetition. Think of a sculptor carving a block of marble. No single strike of the chisel creates the finished masterpiece. Thousands of careful movements shape the final result. Your habits are those small strikes. Individually, they may seem insignificant. Collectively, they transform your life. Of course, not every day goes according to plan. There will be mornings when you oversleep, weeks when work becomes overwhelming, days when discouragement returns unexpectedly. Many people believe missing one day means they've failed. But that's another trap. Imagine climbing a staircase. If you stumble on one step, do you return to the bottom? Of course not. You regain your balance and continue climbing. Habits work the same way. Missing one day isn't failure. Giving up completely is what stops progress. Consistency doesn't require perfection. It requires returning. Again and again. Another powerful principle is making habits so small they become difficult to avoid. Suppose your goal is to exercise regularly. Instead of committing to an hour every day, begin with 5 minutes. 5 minutes feels manageable. Once you've started, you'll often continue longer. Even if you don't, you've still kept your promise to yourself. That matters. Every promise you keep strengthens self-trust. And self-trust is one of the foundations of resilience. Let's also talk about the environment around you. Imagine trying to eat healthier while keeping a table full of candy within reach. Or trying to read more while your phone constantly sends notifications. Willpower is important, but environment often wins. That's why small changes to your surroundings can make good habits much easier. Place a book beside your favorite chair. Keep a water bottle on your desk. Lay out your walking shoes the night before. Create a workspace that invites focus instead of distraction. These tiny adjustments reduce friction and make positive choices more natural. There's another benefit to daily habits that people often overlook. They create hope. When life feels uncertain, completing even one meaningful task reminds you that you're not powerless. You may not control every circumstance, but you can control today's choices. And today's choices shape tomorrow's possibilities. Remember, resilience isn't built during one extraordinary weekend of motivation. It's built through hundreds of ordinary days where you quietly choose progress over excuses. Those ordinary days eventually become an extraordinary life. Reflection. Take a moment to think about your daily routine. Ask yourself, what habit has helped me through difficult seasons in the past? What unhealthy habit tends to appear when I'm discouraged? Which one small habit would make the biggest positive difference in my life if I practiced it consistently? Am I waiting for motivation before taking action, or am I allowing action to create motivation? What kind of person are my current habits shaping me into? Remember, every day is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Choose those votes wisely. Action step. Today, begin what we'll call the 1% Better Challenge. Choose one small habit that takes no more than 10 minutes to complete. Examples include walking for 10 minutes, reading 5 pages of a book, writing 3 sentences in a journal, practicing gratitude by listing 3 good things about your day, spending 10 focused minutes learning a new skill. Commit to doing this habit every day for the next 7 days. Don't worry about doing more. Your goal isn't intensity. Your goal is consistency. At the end of the week, reflect on how that one small habit affected your mindset, energy, and confidence. Key takeaways. Small habits create lasting change through consistency, not intensity. Daily routines provide stability during emotionally difficult seasons. Every repeated habit shapes your identity and strengthens self-trust. Missing one day doesn't erase your progress, simply begin again. Extraordinary lives are built through ordinary actions repeated consistently. Inspirational closing. You don't rebuild your life in a single day. You rebuild it one decision at a time. One promise kept. One healthy choice made. One small step forward. Never underestimate the quiet power of today's ordinary actions. Years from now, they may become the reason your life looks completely different. Strong habits help you move forward, but setbacks often leave behind something much heavier than broken routines. They leave fear. Fear of trying again. Fear of failing again. Fear of being disappointed again. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to face those fears with courage, not by pretending they don't exist, but by learning how to move forward even when they're walking beside you. Chapter 6. Courage is moving forward while fear walks beside you. Introduction. After a painful setback, fear has a way of becoming louder than it used to be. The next opportunity doesn't just look like an opportunity, it looks like another chance to get hurt. The next interview reminds you of the last rejection. The next relationship reminds you of your previous heartbreak. The next business idea reminds you of the money you once lost. It's as if your mind is trying to protect you by convincing you not to try again. And in many ways, that's exactly what it is doing. Fear isn't trying to ruin your future. It's trying to prevent you from experiencing pain again. But here's the problem. If fear becomes the decision maker, it doesn't just protect you from disappointment. It also protects you from possibility. The life you want almost always requires stepping into situations where success isn't guaranteed. This chapter is about understanding fear, respecting it, and refusing to let it become the author of your story. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward even when fear is riding in the passenger seat. Main lesson. Imagine you're standing on the shore of a lake before sunrise. The water is calm, but a light fog covers the surface. You know there's another shore waiting for you, but from where you stand, you can't see it. Would you conclude that the other side no longer exists? Of course not. You understand that the fog is limiting your vision, not changing reality. Fear works much the same way. It clouds our ability to see possibilities. It makes uncertainty look like danger. It convinces us that because we can't clearly see success, success probably isn't there. But limited visibility is not the same as limited potential. Think about your earliest memories of learning something difficult. Maybe it was riding a bicycle. Maybe it was driving a car. Maybe it was speaking in front of a group. In nearly every case, fear appeared before confidence. Confidence wasn't the starting point. It was the result of repeated experience. Yet after a setback, we often expect ourselves to feel confident before acting again. That's like waiting for the fog to disappear before taking a single step. Sometimes the only way through uncertainty is to begin walking. Consider the story of Sophia. Sophia had dreamed of opening a small cafe. She saved money for years, found a location she loved, and finally opened the doors. For a while, everything seemed promising. Then unexpected expenses, changing customer habits, and difficult economic conditions forced her to close after just 18 months. The emotional impact was even greater than the financial loss. She didn't just lose a business. She lost confidence in her judgment. For years afterward, every new opportunity brought the same thought. What if it happens again? Eventually, a friend asked her an interesting question. What if it doesn't? At first, the question seemed almost too simple. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized she'd been treating one painful experience as though it guaranteed every future outcome. She wasn't making decisions based on today's opportunities. She was making them based on yesterday's disappointment. That realization didn't eliminate her fear, but it helped her recognize that fear was telling an old story. A few years later, Sophia didn't open another cafe. Instead, she started a small catering business from home. She began carefully, learned from her previous mistakes, managed her finances differently, and grew at a sustainable pace. This time, her experience became an advantage instead of a burden. The setback hadn't disqualified her. It had educated her. That's one of fear's greatest illusions. It tells us that because something happened once, it will certainly happen again. But life doesn't work that way. Past experiences provide information. They don't predict every future result. Imagine touching a hot stove as a child. The experience teaches you to be careful around heat. It doesn't mean you avoid every kitchen for the rest of your life. Healthy fear teaches. Unhealthy fear traps. Learning the difference changes everything. Let's imagine fear as a smoke alarm. A smoke alarm serves an important purpose. It alerts us to possible danger. But sometimes the alarm goes off because someone burned toast. The sound is real. The danger is not. Our minds often respond to emotional setbacks in the same way. They trigger alarms based on previous experiences, even when current circumstances are completely different. Recognizing this allows you to pause and ask yourself, is this fear protecting me from a real danger or from an old memory? That's an incredibly powerful question. Another reason fear grows after setbacks is uncertainty. Human beings naturally prefer predictability. We like knowing what will happen next. But growth has always lived beyond certainty. Think about every meaningful decision you've ever made. Choosing a career, starting a family, moving to a new city, learning a new skill. None of these came with guarantees. Yet many of them became some of the most rewarding chapters of your life. If certainty were required before action, very little progress would ever happen. Here's another image to consider. Imagine a bridge stretching across a deep valley. From a distance, it looks intimidating. You wonder whether it will hold your weight. The only way to discover its strength is to place one foot on it, then another. With every step, trust grows. Life often asks us to cross bridges we can't fully evaluate from where we're standing. Faith isn't blind optimism. It's the willingness to test what is possible. Another important lesson is that courage grows through practice. Many people imagine courageous individuals simply possess something others don't. But courage is much more like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Think about someone who exercises regularly. The first workout feels difficult. Weeks later, movements that once felt impossible become routine. Courage develops the same way. Every difficult conversation, every application submitted, every apology offered, every dream pursued despite uncertainty. These moments strengthen your ability to face fear in the future. One courageous action prepares you for the next. It's also worth remembering that fear often exaggerates consequences. Suppose you're considering applying for a promotion. Fear whispers, if you don't get it, everyone will think you're incompetent. Reality is usually far less dramatic. Most people are focused on their own lives. Most setbacks aren't remembered nearly as long as we imagine. Fear creates stories much larger than reality. That's why it's helpful to ask, what's the most likely outcome? Instead of, what's the worst possible outcome? This simple shift often brings clarity. Another practical strategy is to shrink intimidating goals into manageable actions. If speaking at a conference feels overwhelming, begin by contributing one idea during a meeting. If starting a business feels impossible, spend 1 hour researching instead of trying to launch everything immediately. If rebuilding relationships feels intimidating, send one honest message instead of solving everything at once. Small courageous actions accumulate. Eventually, they reshape your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone controlled by fear. You begin seeing yourself as someone who acts despite it. That's true courage. Finally, remember this. Fear will probably visit you many times throughout your life. New opportunities bring new uncertainties. Greater responsibilities bring greater challenges. Even successful people experience moments of doubt. The goal isn't reaching a place where fear never appears. The goal is reaching a place where fear no longer decides whether you move. One day you'll realize something remarkable. The moments that changed your life weren't the ones where you felt completely fearless. They were the moments where you quietly whispered, "I'm afraid, but I'm going anyway." Reflection. Take a few quiet moments and ask yourself, what opportunity have I been avoiding because of fear? Is my fear based on my current reality or on a past experience? What's one small, courageous action I could take this week? If I knew I could recover from failure, what would I attempt? What future might I be missing because I've been listening to fear more than hope? Remember, fear often grows in silence. Clarity begins when you question it. Action step. Today, complete what we'll call the courage list. Write down 3 things you've been avoiding because they make you uncomfortable or afraid. Next to each one, write the smallest possible first step you could take within the next 48 hours. For example, make 1 phone call. Send 1 email. Spend 15 minutes researching. Have 1 honest conversation. Apply for 1 opportunity. Then commit to completing at least one of those first steps before the day is over. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. The goal is to prove to yourself that fear doesn't get the final vote. Key takeaways. Fear is a signal, not a decision maker. Past setbacks provide lessons, not guarantees about your future. Courage grows through repeated action, not perfect confidence. Small acts of bravery create lasting resilience. The future belongs to those who move forward despite uncertainty. Inspirational closing. Courage isn't loud. It rarely arrives with dramatic music or perfect certainty. More often, it's a quiet decision made in an ordinary moment. A decision to take 1 more step. To believe 1 more time. To begin again. And those quiet decisions, repeated often enough, have the power to change an entire life. A quick thank you before we continue. If you stayed with this audiobook through these first 6 chapters, thank you. Your time is valuable, and I'm grateful you've chosen to spend it here. I hope these lessons have encouraged you to see setbacks in a new light and reminded you that resilience is something you can build, 1 step at a time. If you're finding value in this audiobook, I'd love to ask a small favor. Please like this video so it can reach others who may need encouragement today. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy motivational and personal development audiobooks like this one. Share this audiobook with a friend, family member, or colleague who may be going through a difficult season. And in the comments, tell us your biggest takeaway so far. Which lesson has spoken to you the most? Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Thank you again for being part of this journey. Now, let's continue. So far, we've learned that setbacks have purpose, that healing matters, that confidence can be rebuilt, that mindset shapes our future, that small habits create momentum, and that courage allows us to move despite fear. But there's one more challenge that quietly follows many setbacks. It isn't failure. It isn't fear. It's the temptation to carry yesterday's mistakes into tomorrow's identity. In the next chapter, we'll discover how to let go of the weight of the past, Forgive yourself for being human and step into the future without dragging old regrets behind you. Chapter 7. Letting Go of the Past Without Forgetting the Lessons. Introduction. Imagine trying to hike up a mountain while carrying a backpack filled with rocks. At first, the weight may seem manageable. You tell yourself you can handle it. But as the trail becomes steeper, every step requires more effort. Eventually, you become so exhausted that you wonder if reaching the summit is even possible. Now imagine opening that backpack. Inside, each rock has a label. The mistake I can't forgive. The opportunity I missed. The words I wish I could take back. The person I disappointed. The dream that didn't work out. Many of us carry these invisible rocks every day. We move forward physically, but emotionally we're still carrying the weight of yesterday. One of the greatest obstacles to bouncing back isn't the setback itself. It's our refusal to release the burden we've attached to it. This chapter is about learning one of the most freeing skills in personal growth: how to let go of the past without wasting the lessons it taught you. Because moving forward doesn't require pretending the past never happened. It requires refusing to let the past decide who you become next. Main lesson. There is an important difference between remembering and reliving. Remembering allows you to learn. Reliving keeps you trapped. Think about watching an old movie. You know how it ends because you've seen it before. You can appreciate the story without believing you're still living inside it. But many people replay painful memories as though they're happening all over again. They revisit old conversations. They imagine different endings. They replay mistakes late at night. If only I had said something different. If only I had started sooner. If only I hadn't trusted that person. If only I had made another choice. The phrase "if only" can quietly steal years from your life. Not because reflection is bad. Reflection is valuable. But because endless regret changes nothing. Imagine driving a car while staring only into the rearview mirror. Could you move? Perhaps for a few seconds. But eventually, you drift off course. The rearview mirror has an important purpose. It helps you understand what's behind you. It was never designed to determine where you're going. Your past serves the same purpose. It provides perspective. It should not become your permanent focus. Let's consider the story of Marcus. Marcus spent nearly a decade building a successful career. He was respected by colleagues, trusted by clients, and proud of what he had accomplished. Then one poor business decision led to significant financial losses. The consequences were serious. He accepted responsibility, worked hard to repair the damage, and gradually rebuilt his professional reputation. But internally, something remained broken. Every new opportunity reminded him of his previous mistake. Every important decision triggered anxiety. Although life had moved forward, his mind remained stuck in that one difficult chapter. One afternoon, while speaking with an older mentor, Marcus admitted, "I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself." The mentor smiled gently and asked, "If your best friend had made the same mistake, how long would you expect him to punish himself?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I'd tell him to learn from it and move on." The mentor nodded. "So why are you holding yourself to a standard you would never expect from someone you love?" That question stayed with Marcus for a long time. He realized he'd confused accountability with lifelong punishment. Those are not the same thing. Taking responsibility is healthy. Living under permanent self-condemnation is not. Mistakes deserve reflection. They do not deserve lifelong imprisonment. One reason we struggle to let go is because we fear that forgiveness means excusing our actions. It doesn't. Imagine touching a hot stove. You learn an important lesson. The next time you're more careful. Learning doesn't require hating yourself forever. It simply requires remembering the lesson. Forgiveness works much the same way. You can acknowledge your mistakes honestly while also allowing yourself to grow beyond them. In fact, refusing to forgive yourself often prevents growth. Why? Because shame focuses on identity. Wisdom focuses on behavior. Shame says, I am broken. Wisdom says, I made a mistake. One attacks who you are. The other improves what you do. Let's think about a sculptor working with stone. Every strike of the chisel removes something. At first glance, it may seem as though the sculptor is destroying the rock. But with every careful cut, the sculpture becomes clearer. Life often shapes us the same way. Pain removes illusions. Failure removes pride. Disappointment removes unrealistic expectations. Loss removes distractions. If we're willing to learn, every difficult experience reveals something stronger beneath the surface. The challenge is trusting that the unfinished version of yourself isn't the final version. Another reason we hold on to the past is because we confuse our history with our identity. Suppose someone struggled academically in school. Years later, they may still describe themselves by saying, I'm just not smart. But is that statement really true? Or is it simply a story they've repeated so many times that it feels like reality? Our identities are often built from old experiences that no longer describe who we've become. Imagine carrying around clothes that no longer fit. You wouldn't keep wearing them simply because they once belonged to you. Old identities deserve the same treatment. You can thank them for what they taught you, then leave them behind. There's another powerful truth about the past. It cannot be changed, but the meaning you assign to it can. Think about someone who survives a difficult illness. Years later, they may say, it was the hardest season of my life. They may also say, it taught me to appreciate every day. Both statements describe the same experience. The facts remain unchanged. The meaning evolves. You have more influence over the meaning of your experiences than you may realize. That doesn't happen overnight. It happens through reflection, healing, and choosing new perspectives. Let's also talk about regret. Regret often comes from believing we should have known then what we know now. But that's impossible. Imagine criticizing a child for not solving a university-level math problem. It wouldn't make sense. Children act according to what they understand at the time. Adults are no different. You made yesterday's decisions using yesterday's knowledge, emotions, and circumstances. Today you've grown. Today you see more clearly. Instead of punishing your former self for not knowing what you know now, thank that version of yourself for surviving long enough to become wiser. That's a much healthier relationship with your own history. One practical way to let go is to ask yourself, What would I tell someone I deeply care about if they were carrying this same regret? Most likely, your answer would include compassion, hope, and encouragement. Now ask yourself one more question. Why am I unwilling to offer those same gifts to myself? Self-forgiveness isn't weakness. It's one of the bravest decisions you can make. Because it requires believing that your future deserves more attention than your past. Finally, remember this. The chapters you've already lived explain part of your story. They do not write the chapters that haven't been written yet. Every sunrise quietly reminds us that life continues. Every new day offers another opportunity to choose differently, to grow differently, to live differently. You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can write tomorrow. And sometimes, that's the greatest freedom of all. Reflection. Take a quiet moment and reflect on these questions. What regret have I been carrying longer than I need to? Am I holding on to guilt that has already taught me its lesson? If someone I loved had experienced the same setback, how would I encourage them? What identity from my past no longer fits the person I'm becoming? What would become possible if I truly forgave myself? Sit with these questions without rushing the answers. Sometimes the first step toward freedom is simply being willing to ask. Action step. Today, write yourself a letter of release. Begin with the words, "I'm ready to stop carrying." Be honest about the mistakes, regrets, disappointments, or self-criticisms you've been holding onto. Then write what you've learned, how you've grown, what you're choosing to leave behind, what kind of person you're choosing to become. When you finish, read the letter aloud. Not because everything will instantly change, but because speaking those words can mark the beginning of a new chapter. Keep the letter somewhere safe as a reminder that growth is possible and that forgiveness is part of becoming stronger. Key takeaways. Remember the lessons, but don't keep reliving the pain. Taking responsibility is healthy. Lifelong self-punishment is not. Your past experiences are part of your story, not your identity. Self-forgiveness creates space for future growth. You cannot change yesterday, but you can choose who you become tomorrow. Inspirational closing. The strongest people aren't those who never made mistakes. They're the ones who had the courage to learn from them, forgive themselves, and continue walking forward. Don't spend so much time looking back that you miss the beautiful road unfolding ahead. Your next chapter is waiting, and it deserves a version of you that travels lighter. Letting go of the past frees your hands, but what you choose to hold next matters just as much. As you move beyond old regrets, you'll need something that keeps you grounded through future challenges. In the next chapter, we'll explore how purpose becomes an anchor during life's storms, helping you stay focused, resilient, and committed even when the path ahead is uncertain. Chapter 8. Finding Purpose That Outlasts Every Setback. Introduction. Imagine a ship crossing the ocean. The waves rise and fall. Storms appear without warning. Winds shift direction, sometimes gently and sometimes with incredible force. The captain cannot control the weather, but the captain can choose a destination. As long as the destination remains clear, every adjustment has meaning. Every course correction serves a purpose. Without a destination, however, the ship simply drifts wherever the current takes it. Life is much the same. Setbacks become especially painful when we lose sight of why we started in the first place. When purpose is weak, obstacles feel overwhelming. When purpose is strong, obstacles become part of the journey. This chapter is about discovering the kind of purpose that remains steady even when circumstances change. A purpose that helps you rise again, not because life is easy, but because what you're moving toward matters more than what you're moving away from. Main lesson. Many people confuse goals with purpose. Goals are important. You may have a goal to earn a promotion, buy a home, improve your health, or start a business. Goals give you direction, but purpose gives those goals meaning. Imagine two builders laying bricks. Someone asks the first builder, "What are you doing?" He replies, "I'm stacking bricks." The second builder answers, "I'm helping build a school where children will learn for generations." Both are doing the same work, but one sees only the task. The other sees the impact. Purpose changes how we experience difficulty. When your work has meaning, hard days become easier to endure. When your efforts connect to something larger than yourself, setbacks become temporary interruptions instead of permanent endings. Let's consider the story of Rachel. Rachel became a nurse because she genuinely wanted to help people. During her first few years, she loved her work despite the long hours. Then came an incredibly demanding season. Staff shortages, emotional exhaustion, and personal challenges left her questioning everything. She thought about quitting. One evening, after a particularly difficult shift, an elderly patient quietly took her hand and said, "I know today was hard, but thank you for treating me like I mattered." Those simple words reminded Rachel why she had chosen this profession. The challenges hadn't disappeared. The workload hadn't become lighter. But reconnecting with her purpose gave her strength to continue. Purpose doesn't remove hardship. It gives hardship meaning. Think about a marathon runner. 20 miles into the race, every muscle aches. The finish line still seems far away. What keeps the runner moving? Not comfort, not ease. It's the reason they decided to begin. Life asks us the same question again and again. What is important enough that you're willing to keep going when things become difficult? The answer would be different for each person. For one individual, purpose may be providing a better future for their family. For another, it may be creating art that inspires others. For someone else, it may be serving their community, teaching, healing, building, creating, or simply becoming the kind of person they admire. There's no single correct purpose. What matters is that it is genuine. Purpose cannot be borrowed. It must be discovered. Imagine wearing shoes that belong to someone else. They may look impressive, but if they don't fit, every step becomes uncomfortable. The same is true of pursuing someone else's definition of success. Society often tells us what should matter. Earn more, own more, achieve more, appear successful. There's nothing wrong with ambition. But if your goals are disconnected from your deepest values, even success can leave you feeling empty. Purpose begins by asking different questions. Instead of, "What will impress people?" ask, "What kind of contribution do I want to make?" Instead of, What do I want to have? Ask, who do I want to become? These questions shift your focus from external achievement to internal growth. And internal growth remains valuable regardless of external circumstances. Let's imagine a lighthouse standing on a rocky coastline. Storms crash against it year after year. The lighthouse doesn't stop the storms. It doesn't calm the sea. Its purpose is simply to remain standing and continue shining. Because of that consistency, countless ships find their way safely home. Your purpose can work the same way. You don't have to control every challenge. You simply need to continue showing up for what matters most. Another important truth is that purpose often becomes clearer through adversity. Think about a piece of rough stone placed into a river. Year after year, flowing water smooths its edges. What once seemed rough gradually becomes refined. Difficult seasons have a similar effect on us. They strip away distractions. They reveal priorities. They remind us what truly deserves our time and energy. Many people discover their deepest purpose not during their easiest years, but during their hardest ones. A setback can force us to slow down long enough to ask questions we were too busy to consider before. Am I living according to my values? Am I investing my time wisely? Am I chasing approval or fulfillment? Am I building a life that reflects who I truly want to be? Those questions rarely emerge during seasons of comfort, but they often appear after disappointment, and their answers can reshape an entire life. Purpose also gives resilience a direction. Imagine trying to row a boat without choosing a destination. You'll become tired quickly because every stroke feels random. Now imagine rowing toward an island where your loved ones are waiting. The physical effort remains the same, but emotionally, everything changes. The destination transforms the experience. The same principle applies to daily life. When you know why you're taking the next step, it's easier to take it. This is why purpose and habits work so well together. Your habits become the daily expression of your purpose. If your purpose is to become healthier, your morning walk carries meaning. If your purpose is to serve others, your work becomes more than a paycheck. If your purpose is to become wiser, every book you read becomes an investment. Purpose transforms ordinary actions into meaningful ones. It's also important to understand that purpose evolves. The purpose that guided you at 20 may not be identical to the one guiding you at 50. Life changes. Responsibilities change. Experiences change. Growth often reveals new opportunities to contribute. That's not inconsistency. It's maturity. Just as a tree continues growing new branches while remaining rooted, your purpose can expand while remaining grounded in your core values. Finally, remember this. You don't have to know every step before you begin. Many people delay action because they're waiting for complete clarity. But purpose often becomes clearer through movement. Imagine walking through a forest at dawn. The rising sun doesn't illuminate the entire trail all at once. It reveals enough for your next few steps. As you continue walking, more of the path becomes visible. Life works much the same way. Take the next faithful step, then the next. Purpose isn't always discovered in a single dramatic moment. More often, it's uncovered through a lifetime of small, meaningful decisions made with integrity and courage. Reflection. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what truly matters to me beyond success or recognition? Which activities make me feel most alive and fulfilled? Who benefits when I become the best version of myself? If fear and failure were no longer obstacles, what meaningful contribution would I want to make? Am I living according to my deepest values or according to other people's expectations? Don't rush these questions. Purpose often reveals itself through thoughtful reflection. Action step. Today, write your own personal purpose statement. Keep it simple. Complete this sentence. I want my life to be remembered for. Then answer. The people I want to help are. The values I want to live by are. The strengths I want to develop are. One action I can take this week that reflects my purpose is. Place this statement somewhere you'll see it often. Read it each morning for the next 7 days. Let it remind you that your setbacks do not define your direction, your purpose does. Key takeaways. Goals give direction, but purpose gives meaning. A strong purpose helps you persevere through difficult seasons. Purpose is discovered by aligning your life with your values, not with other people's expectations. Daily habits become more powerful when connected to a meaningful purpose. You don't need the entire path to begin, just the courage to take the next step. Inspirational closing. A storm can delay a ship. It can change the route. It can even force the captain to pause. But as long as the destination remains clear, the journey is never truly lost. Hold tightly to your purpose. Let it become the quiet compass that guides you through every setback, every uncertainty, and every new beginning. When your why is strong, you'll discover that you're capable of far more than you once believed. Purpose gives us direction, but no meaningful journey is traveled entirely alone. Even the strongest, most resilient people are shaped by the encouragement, wisdom, and support of others. In the next chapter, we'll explore why the people you surround yourself with can either strengthen your ability to bounce back or quietly keep you stuck, and how to build relationships that help you grow through life's challenges. Chapter 9. The strength you find in the people around you. Introduction. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to carry something heavy when someone helps lift it? The weight may not change. The distance may not become shorter. But somehow, sharing the burden makes the journey more manageable. Life setbacks work in much the same way. Many people believe resilience means handling every problem alone. They imagine that asking for help is a sign of weakness, or that strong people should always have the answers. But that's not how resilience works. Even the tallest trees in a forest depend on the ecosystem around them. Their roots intertwine beneath the soil, sharing nutrients, supporting one another, and helping the entire forest withstand powerful storms. Individually, each tree is strong. Together, they become stronger. The same is true for us. The people we choose to surround ourselves with can either help us recover from setbacks or quietly reinforce the fears and doubts we're trying to overcome. In this chapter, we'll explore why healthy relationships are one of the greatest sources of resilience, how to recognize the difference between supportive and draining influences, and how becoming the right person for others can strengthen your own journey as well. Main lesson. Imagine trying to start a campfire. You gather a few pieces of wood and light a small flame. As long as the wood stays together, the fire grows steadily. Now imagine pulling each piece of wood apart. One by one, the flames begin to fade. Eventually, they disappear. Human encouragement works in a similar way. When people support one another, hope grows stronger. When isolation takes over, even a determined person can begin to lose momentum. This doesn't mean you need a large group of friends or constant attention. It means every person needs meaningful connection. Let's consider the story of Daniel. After his business failed, Daniel became deeply embarrassed. He avoided family gatherings because he didn't want to answer questions. He stopped meeting friends for coffee. When people invited him out, he politely declined. At first, isolation felt easier. No awkward conversations. No explaining what had happened. No admitting disappointment. But over time, something changed. Without realizing it, Daniel had created an environment where his own thoughts became his loudest voice. Unfortunately, those thoughts weren't always kind. He replayed every mistake. He questioned every decision. He convinced himself that everyone else was moving forward while he remained stuck. Months later, an old friend reached out again. This time, Daniel accepted the invitation. They spent several hours talking, not only about the business, but about life, family, lessons learned, and future possibilities. Daniel left that conversation feeling lighter. His circumstances hadn't changed overnight, but his perspective had. Sometimes, we don't need someone to solve our problems. We simply need someone who reminds us that we don't have to face them alone. There is tremendous strength in being understood. Think about climbing a mountain with a group. There will be moments when one person becomes tired. Someone else offers encouragement. Later, another person struggles. The group slows down and helps them continue. The goal isn't to prove who is strongest. The goal is for everyone to reach the summit together. Life isn't a competition to see who needs the least support. It's an opportunity to learn how giving and receiving encouragement strengthens everyone involved. Of course, not every relationship is equally healthy. Some people inspire growth. Others quietly drain it. Imagine planting a healthy flower in poor soil. No matter how much sunlight or water it receives, unhealthy soil limits its growth. The environment matters. Relationships create emotional environments. Ask yourself, who encourages me to become a better person? Who celebrates my progress without jealousy? Who tells me the truth with kindness instead of criticism? Who listens without immediately judging or trying to control me? Those are valuable relationships. Protect them. Nurture them. Invest in them. At the same time, be aware of voices that constantly feed fear. There are people who unintentionally reinforce limitation. Whenever you share a dream, they immediately list reasons it won't work. Whenever you celebrate progress, they dismiss it. Whenever you recover from a setback, they remind you of your past instead of recognizing your growth. This doesn't necessarily make them bad people. Sometimes they're speaking from their own fears. Sometimes they genuinely believe they're protecting you from disappointment. But regardless of their intentions, repeatedly surrounding yourself with discouragement makes resilience much more difficult. Imagine trying to sail while someone constantly drops an anchor. You'll still move, but every step forward becomes harder than it needs to be. Choosing healthy influences isn't about rejecting people. It's about recognizing which voices deserve the greatest authority in your life. Another important lesson is that support doesn't always arrive in dramatic ways. Sometimes resilience is strengthened by simple moments. A friend sending a thoughtful message. A parent asking how you're doing. A co-worker encouraging you before an important meeting. A mentor offering perspective after a difficult week. These moments may seem small, but like drops of water filling a bucket, they accumulate over time. Never underestimate the impact of ordinary kindness. There's another side to this conversation as well. Receiving support is important. Giving support is equally powerful. Imagine carrying a candle through a dark room. Now use your candle to light someone else's. Has your own flame become weaker? No. The room simply becomes brighter. Encouragement works the same way. When you help someone else recover from disappointment, you often strengthen your own resilience at the same time. Why? Because serving others reminds you that your experiences have value. Your setbacks become sources of wisdom. Your struggles become opportunities to guide someone walking a similar path. Perhaps the greatest comfort comes from realizing, my pain wasn't meaningless. It became part of someone else's healing. Let's also talk about mentors. Throughout history, many successful people have spoken about the importance of learning from those who walked the path before them. A mentor doesn't remove obstacles. A mentor helps you avoid unnecessary ones. Imagine hiking through an unfamiliar forest. Someone who knows the trail can't eliminate every hill or river crossing, but they can point out safe paths, warn you about hidden dangers, and remind you that difficult sections eventually end. That's the value of wisdom shared through experience. Sometimes a single conversation with someone who's overcome similar challenges can save you months of unnecessary discouragement. Another important relationship to strengthen is the one you have with yourself. After all, you're the one voice you'll hear every single day. If your inner dialogue is constantly harsh, critical, or hopeless, even the strongest support system will struggle to overcome it. Treat yourself the way a wise mentor would. Honest when correction is needed. Compassionate when you fall short. Encouraging when progress feels slow. Balanced in every season. Finally, remember that resilience is contagious. Think about someone you've met whose calm confidence made difficult situations feel more manageable. Their attitude influenced everyone around them. You can become that kind of person. Not because your life is perfect, but because you've learned that setbacks don't have the final word. Your quiet perseverance may become someone else's reason to keep going. And that may be one of the greatest legacies you ever leave. Reflection. Take a few quiet moments to reflect on these questions. Who consistently encourages me to become my best self? Are there relationships that leave me feeling discouraged more often than inspired? When was the last time I allowed someone to help me? How do I usually respond when someone else is struggling? What kind of friend, family member, mentor, or colleague do I want to become? Healthy relationships begin with intentional choices, both in the people you welcome into your life and the person you choose to be. Action step. Today, complete what we'll call the connection challenge. Choose one person who has positively influenced your life. Reach out to them. Send a message, make a phone call, or arrange to meet for a conversation. Thank them specifically for something they've done that has encouraged or supported you. Then choose one person who may be going through a difficult season. Offer them genuine encouragement without expecting anything in return. A thoughtful message, a listening ear, a kind word. One simple act of support can become a turning point in someone's day, and perhaps even in their life. Key takeaways. Resilience grows stronger through meaningful relationships. Healthy influences encourage growth, honesty, and hope. Isolation often magnifies fear and self-doubt. Giving encouragement strengthens both the giver and the receiver. The relationship you have with yourself shapes every other relationship in your life. Inspirational closing. No one climbs every mountain alone. There are moments when you lead. There are moments when you lean on others. Both require courage. Never believe that asking for support makes you weak. Some of the strongest people in the world are simply those who had the wisdom to walk beside others instead of trying to carry every burden by themselves. The people around us can help us recover, but eventually there comes a moment when no one else can take the next step for us. There comes a moment when we must decide whether we'll remain defined by what happened or by what we choose to do next. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most important turning points in every comeback, the decision to take responsibility for your future and reclaim the power to shape the life ahead. Chapter 10. Taking ownership of your next chapter. Introduction. Imagine receiving a book halfway through the story. The earlier chapters are already written. Some are joyful, others are painful. There are moments of success, moments of disappointment, unexpected plot twists, and chapters you wish had unfolded differently. You can't erase what's already on the pages. You can't rewrite the conversations that have already happened. You can't undo the decisions that have already been made. But when you turn the page, something remarkable happens. The rest of the book is still blank. A setback can make us feel as though our entire story has already been decided. It whispers that because one chapter was difficult, the ending must also be disappointing. But that's never how stories work. A single chapter does not define the entire book. And one setback does not define an entire life. This chapter is about taking ownership of the pages that have not yet been written. Because although you cannot always choose what happens to you, you can always choose how you respond, and that choice has the power to reshape your future. Main lesson. One of the most important shifts a person can make after a setback is moving from asking, "Why did this happen to me?" to asking, "What will I do now?" The first question looks backward. The second looks forward. Both have value, but only one creates movement. Imagine two farmers whose crops are damaged by an unexpected storm. The first spends every day talking about how unfair the weather has been. The second also feels disappointed, but after grieving the loss, begins repairing fences, preparing the soil, and planting again. Neither farmer caused the storm. Neither deserved the loss. but only one is preparing for the next harvest. Ownership is not about accepting blame for everything that happens. Life includes circumstances beyond anyone's control. Unexpected illness, economic changes, natural disasters, the actions of other people, random moments of misfortune. Ownership simply means refusing to surrender your future because of what you cannot control. Let's consider the story of Hannah. Hannah dreamed of becoming a school principal. She worked diligently as a teacher, pursued additional education, and applied for leadership positions several times. Each application ended the same way. Someone else was selected. With every rejection, frustration grew. She found herself criticizing the hiring process, comparing herself to colleagues, and wondering whether hard work mattered anymore. One evening, while talking with a mentor, she said, "I've done everything right, and it still isn't working." Her mentor listened carefully before asking, "What part of this situation is still within your control?" At first, Hannah struggled to answer. Then she realized there was still plenty she could influence. She could continue developing her leadership skills. She could seek honest feedback after interviews. She could mentor younger teachers. She could strengthen areas where she still lacked experience. She couldn't guarantee when the opportunity would come, but she could guarantee that she'd be more prepared when it did. 2 years later, she accepted the leadership position she had worked toward for so long. Looking back, she realized something important. The waiting season hadn't been wasted. It had been preparing her. Ownership transformed frustration into growth. This doesn't mean you ignore difficult emotions. We've already explored the importance of healing. But healing and ownership work together. Healing allows you to accept what happened. Ownership allows you to decide what happens next. Think about driving a car. You can't change the road you've already traveled. You also can't control every driver around you. But you can choose how you steer from this point forward. That simple truth contains incredible freedom. Many people unknowingly give away their power by waiting for perfect circumstances before taking action. They tell themselves, "I'll start when I feel ready. I'll forgive when they apologize. I'll be happy when everything improves." But if your future depends entirely on circumstances you cannot control, you'll always be waiting. Ownership says, "I may not control everything, but I control my next choice." That next choice matters. Small choices become habits. Habits become character. Character shapes destiny. Imagine a row of dominoes standing upright. The first domino is tiny. The last domino is enormous. Each one knocks over the next. Your daily decisions work in much the same way. A small decision today often creates consequences far larger than it first appears. Choosing to read instead of endlessly scrolling. Choosing honesty instead of avoidance. Choosing to apologize instead of protecting your pride. Choosing to exercise instead of making another excuse. These moments may seem ordinary, yet they quietly build the future. Ownership also means refusing to become defined by excuses. Now, let's be careful here. There is a difference between an explanation and an excuse. An explanation helps us understand what happened. An excuse convinces us we cannot change. For example, I've struggled with confidence because of past experiences. That's an explanation. I'll never become confident because of my past. That's an excuse. One opens the door to growth. The other closes it. Whenever you notice yourself making excuses, pause and ask, what is one thing I can do today? Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. Even the smallest meaningful action shifts your focus from helplessness to responsibility. Let's imagine a sailor caught in strong winds. The sailor doesn't complain to the ocean. The sailor adjusts the sails. Life often asks us to do the same. You may not choose the wind, but you can choose your response. Another powerful aspect of ownership is keeping promises to yourself. Suppose you decide to wake up 30 minutes earlier each morning. The first day you succeed, then the second, then the third. Each morning becomes another vote for the identity you're building. I'm someone who follows through. That identity becomes stronger than temporary motivation. Self-respect grows each time your actions align with your intentions. There's another lesson worth remembering. Ownership includes celebrating progress. Many people become so focused on the distance remaining that they never acknowledge how far they've already come. Imagine hiking 10 miles toward a destination. After 8 miles, would you spend the entire journey complaining about the final 2? Probably not. You'd recognize the progress already made. Your personal growth deserves the same perspective. Celebrate improved habits. Celebrate healthier thinking. Celebrate quicker recoveries after setbacks. Celebrate the courage to keep trying. Progress deserves recognition. Finally, understand that ownership isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Every morning, life quietly asks, who will write today's page? Your circumstances may offer suggestions. Your fears may offer opinions. Your past may try to rewrite the story. But the pen remains in your hands. And that changes everything. Reflection. Take a few moments and ask yourself, what parts of my life have I been waiting for someone else to change? Where have I confused circumstances with personal power? What's one excuse I've been using that no longer serves me? What is one decision I can make today that moves me toward the future I want? If I fully accepted responsibility for my next chapter, what would I do differently starting now? Remember, ownership begins with one honest answer followed by one intentional action. Action step. Today, create your circle of influence list. Draw 2 circles on a page. In the outer circle, write down everything that's worrying you but is outside your control. For example, other people's opinions, past mistakes, the economy, unexpected events. Then, in the inner circle, write everything you can control. Examples include your attitude, your effort, your daily habits, your learning, your kindness, your persistence, your response to setbacks. For the next week, whenever you feel overwhelmed, return to this page and ask yourself, am I spending my energy inside the right circle? Then choose one action from your inner circle and complete it before the day ends. Key takeaways. You can't rewrite the past, but you can write the next chapter. Ownership means focusing on what you can control instead of what you can't. Small daily choices create long-term transformation. Explanations help you learn. Excuses keep you stuck. Every new day places the pen back in your hands. Inspirational closing. The most powerful moment in any comeback isn't when circumstances suddenly improve. It's the quiet moment when a person decides, "From this day forward, I will no longer let yesterday make today's decisions." That decision may not change your life overnight, but it can begin changing it immediately. And sometimes, that's exactly how extraordinary journeys begin. Taking ownership gives you the power to move forward, but lasting resilience requires one more important quality. Life will continue to surprise you. New challenges will appear. Unexpected setbacks will come again. The question isn't whether difficulties will return. The question is whether you will be prepared to meet them with wisdom instead of fear. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to build lifelong resilience so that no matter what tomorrow brings, you'll have the strength to adapt, recover, and keep growing. Chapter 11. Building lifelong resilience for every season of life. Introduction. Imagine two houses built on the same street. The first house looks beautiful from the outside. Fresh paint, elegant windows, perfect landscaping. It impresses everyone who walks by. The second house is simpler. It doesn't attract as much attention. But when it was built, special care was taken with the foundation. Deep supports were placed beneath the ground where no one could see them. Then one year, a powerful storm arrives. Strong winds shake the neighborhood. Heavy rain floods the streets. The beautiful appearance of the first house cannot compensate for its weak foundation. Cracks begin to form. The second house also experiences the storm. It creaks. It sways. It endures the same wind and rain. But it remains standing because of what was built long before the storm arrived. Resilience works in exactly the same way. It isn't something you create during the crisis. It's something you build every day before the next challenge appears. The goal of this audiobook has never been to help you survive one setback. The goal is to help you become the kind of person who can face whatever life brings with wisdom, courage, and steady hope. This chapter is about building that kind of lasting resilience. Main lesson. Many people think resilience is about being tough. They imagine someone who never cries, never struggles, and never feels discouraged. But that's not resilience. That's emotional suppression. Real resilience is much more balanced. It's the ability to bend without breaking. Think about a bamboo forest. During a powerful storm, bamboo bends with the wind. It doesn't resist every movement. It adapts. When the storm passes, it stands upright again. Compare that with a rigid branch that refuses to bend. Under enough pressure, it snaps. Life often rewards flexibility more than stubbornness. This doesn't mean abandoning your values. It means adapting your methods while remaining faithful to your purpose. Suppose your original career plan no longer works. Resilience asks, what's another path toward the same purpose? Suppose one business idea fails. Resilience asks, what can I improve before trying again? Suppose one relationship ends. Resilience asks, what have I learned about communication, trust and the kind of relationship I hope to build in the future. Notice the pattern. Resilient people don't avoid disappointment. They transform disappointment into preparation. Let's meet someone named Leo. Leo had always been physically active. Running was part of his daily routine. Then an injury forced him to stop for several months. At first, he became frustrated. He thought, if I can't run, I can't stay healthy. His identity had become tied to one specific activity. Eventually, his physical therapist suggested swimming. At first, Leo resisted. I'm a runner, he insisted. But over time, he gave swimming a chance. Not only did it help him recover, but he also discovered a new activity he genuinely enjoyed. Years later, he continued doing both. His setback expanded his life instead of shrinking it. The lesson wasn't about sports. It was about adaptability. Sometimes resilience means asking, what else is possible? Instead of, why didn't life go according to my original plan? Adaptability keeps hope alive. Another important part of resilience is maintaining perspective. Imagine looking at a tapestry from only a few inches away. You'd mostly see tangled threads. The pattern would seem confusing. Step back several feet, and the design begins to emerge. Life often feels tangled when we're living through difficult seasons. Only with time do we begin seeing how separate experiences connect. This doesn't mean every hardship has an obvious explanation. Some experiences remain deeply painful. But perspective reminds us not to judge our entire lives by one difficult season. Think about the changing seasons in nature. Winter doesn't last forever. Neither does spring. Summer eventually gives way to autumn. Every season has a purpose. Life follows similar rhythms. There are seasons of growth, seasons of waiting, seasons of celebration, seasons of grief. Wisdom comes from understanding that no single season lasts forever. If you're currently in a difficult season, remember this. Temporary doesn't mean insignificant. But temporary also doesn't mean permanent. One of the strongest habits resilient people develop is gratitude. At first glance, gratitude may seem unrelated to setbacks. But consider this. Gratitude doesn't ignore pain. It broadens perspective. Imagine holding a flashlight in a dark room. Wherever you point, the light becomes your focus. If you shine it only on what's missing, disappointment grows. If you also shine it on what's still present, your health, supportive relationships, opportunities to learn, moments of kindness, your perspective becomes more balanced. Gratitude doesn't deny hardship. It reminds you that hardship isn't the whole story. Another quality of resilient people is curiosity. They remain lifelong learners. Instead of assuming they already know everything, they continue asking questions. What can I improve? What skill should I develop next? What perspective haven't I considered? Growth requires humility. The willingness to learn keeps resilience alive throughout every stage of life. Imagine a river flowing around rocks. The rocks create obstacles, but the river doesn't stop. It adjusts. It flows around them. Eventually, it continues toward the ocean. Learning works the same way. Every new skill becomes another pathway around future obstacles. Let's also discuss rest. Many people believe resilience means constantly pushing harder. But imagine trying to chop down a tree with a dull axe. Working longer isn't the answer. Sharpening the axe is. Rest sharpens your ability to face future challenges. Sleep, quiet reflection, time with loved ones, meaningful hobbies, moments of laughter. These are not distractions from resilience. They are part of resilience. Burnout rarely produces wise decisions. Renewal does. Another essential ingredient is hope. Hope is often misunderstood as wishful thinking. But genuine hope is much more practical. Hope says, I don't know exactly how things will work out, but I believe today's efforts still matter. Hope gives purpose to ordinary actions. It encourages planting seeds before the harvest is visible. It motivates preparation before opportunities appear. Without hope, effort feels meaningless. With hope, effort becomes an investment. Finally, remember that resilience is never finished. You don't graduate from personal growth. Life continues teaching. Every new chapter brings opportunities to become wiser, kinder, stronger, and more compassionate. That's one of life's greatest gifts. No matter your age, your past, or your current circumstances, there is always another lesson to learn and another way to grow. The strongest people aren't those who reached a final destination. They're the ones who never stopped becoming better travelers. Reflection. Take a quiet moment and reflect on these questions. How have I changed because of the setbacks I've experienced? Which strengths have grown that I didn't possess a few years ago? Am I resisting necessary change or adapting with wisdom? What habits help me stay emotionally, mentally, and physically resilient? What kind of person do I hope to become 5 years from now, regardless of what challenges I face? Your answers may become the blueprint for the life you're continuing to build. Action step. Today, create your own resilience blueprint. Draw 4 sections on a page labeled Mind, Body, Relationships, Purpose. Under each section, write one habit you'll commit to practicing consistently. For example, mind, read for 20 minutes each day. Body, walk or exercise 4 times a week. Relationships, have one meaningful conversation each week with someone I care about. Purpose, spend time each week working toward a meaningful long-term goal. Review this blueprint every Sunday. Instead of asking, was this week perfect? Ask, did this week make me stronger? That simple question shifts your focus from perfection to progress. Key takeaways. Resilience is built before the next storm arrives. Adaptability allows you to grow through changing circumstances. Every season of life has something valuable to teach. Gratitude, learning, rest, and hope strengthen long-term resilience. Personal growth is a lifelong journey, not a final destination. Inspirational closing. Storms may shape the landscape, but they don't have the final word. The final word belongs to the person who chooses to rebuild, to keep learning, and to keep walking forward with courage and hope. Every challenge you've survived has already proven something important. You are more resilient than your hardest days have led you to believe. Carry that truth with you. It will serve you well in every season still to come. We've explored setbacks, healing, confidence, mindset, habits, courage, purpose, relationships, ownership, and lifelong resilience. Now it's time to bring everything together. In our final chapter, we'll discover how every lesson you've learned can become a new way of living, one where setbacks are no longer feared, but recognized as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more prepared for whatever comes next. Chapter 12. Your greatest comeback begins today. Introduction. Imagine standing at the edge of a new path just as the sun begins to rise. Behind you lies a road you've already traveled. It contains moments of joy, seasons of struggle, unexpected detours, painful disappointments, and victories you once thought were impossible. Ahead of you is another road. You can't see every turn. You don't know every challenge you'll face. You can't predict every opportunity waiting around the corner. But you're not standing there as the same person who began this journey. You've learned. You've healed. You've grown. The setbacks that once seemed like walls have become teachers. The fears that once stopped you have become reminders that courage is a choice. The disappointments that once defined you have become chapters instead of conclusions. This final chapter isn't about reaching the end. It's about beginning the next season of your life with a new perspective. Because the greatest comeback isn't one dramatic moment. It's a lifelong commitment to becoming stronger, wiser, kinder, and more resilient with every challenge you face. Main lesson. Let's take a moment to reflect on the journey we've shared together. At the beginning of this audiobook, setbacks may have seemed like something to avoid at all costs. Now, perhaps they look a little different. Not because they're enjoyable, not because they're easy, but because you've begun to understand that setbacks carry lessons success often cannot teach. Think about a blacksmith shaping a piece of steel. The metal is heated, hammered, cooled, and heated again. From the outside, the process looks harsh. Yet each stage strengthens the steel. Without the pressure, it would never become the tool it was designed to be. Life shapes people in much the same way. Every challenge asks something of us. Sometimes it asks for patience. Sometimes courage. Sometimes humility. Sometimes forgiveness. Sometimes persistence. Each response becomes another layer of strength. The remarkable thing is that resilience isn't built all at once. It grows quietly through ordinary decisions. The decision to get out of bed after a difficult day. The decision to apologize when pride says to stay silent. The decision to try again after rejection. The decision to believe that today's effort still matters, even when tomorrow remains uncertain. Those decisions rarely make headlines, but they build extraordinary lives. Imagine two travelers beginning identical journeys. The first traveler believes every obstacle is proof that the journey was a mistake. The second traveler believes every obstacle is part of learning the road. Years later, both have traveled similar distances. But one has collected bitterness. The other has collected wisdom. The difference wasn't the road. It was the perspective they carried. As you move forward, remember that life will continue presenting challenges. There will be days when plans fall apart. Days when unexpected disappointments arrive. Days when motivation feels distant. Those days do not erase everything you've learned. In fact, they become opportunities to practice it. Resilience isn't proven on easy days. It's revealed on difficult ones. Another important truth is that growth often happens so gradually you don't notice it. Imagine watching a child every single day. The changes seem small, almost invisible. Then you look at a photograph taken several years earlier and suddenly realize how much has changed. Personal growth works the same way. You may not notice your increased patience from one day to the next. You may not recognize your growing confidence after one conversation. But over months and years, those small changes accumulate into a completely different person. Trust the process. Progress doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. Let's also remember that your story has value beyond your own life. One day, someone else may experience the very setback you've already survived. Your words could encourage them. Your experience could guide them. Your compassion could remind them that recovery is possible. This is one of the beautiful ways adversity creates purpose. The lessons that strengthened you can become gifts you share with others. Think about a candle lighting another candle. Its own flame doesn't grow weaker. The light simply spreads. Every act of resilience has the potential to inspire someone else. Another lesson worth carrying forward is the importance of gratitude. Not gratitude only for the victories, but gratitude for the growth that difficult seasons produced. Perhaps you wouldn't choose every hardship you've experienced. Few people would. But many people eventually discover they wouldn't trade the wisdom those experiences gave them, because they became more patient, more compassionate, more courageous, more appreciative of life's simple moments. Those qualities are priceless. Now imagine yourself 1 year from today. Picture yourself waking up with greater confidence. Not because life has become perfect, but because you've learned how to navigate imperfection. Imagine facing challenges with curiosity instead of panic. Responding to setbacks with patience instead of hopelessness. Building habits that strengthen your future instead of reacting only to today's emotions. Imagine becoming the kind of person who quietly inspires others, not through grand speeches, but through consistent character. That future isn't created by wishing. It's created by today's choices. One conversation, one habit, one courageous step, one act of kindness, one lesson applied, again and again. The future is rarely built in extraordinary moments. It's built through ordinary faithfulness. There's one final image I'd like to leave with you. Imagine an old oak tree standing in a wide open field. Its branches stretch confidently toward the sky. Its roots reach deep into the earth. Generations have rested beneath its shade. Birds have built nests among its branches. Children have climbed its trunk. Travelers have found comfort beneath its leaves. If that tree could tell its story, it wouldn't speak only of sunny days. It would remember storms, powerful winds, long winters, dry seasons, lightning, heavy rain. Every challenge became part of its strength. Its roots grew deeper because the storms demanded it. Your life can become like that tree, not untouched by difficulty, but strengthened because of it. Not free from future storms, but prepared to withstand them. Not perfect, but deeply rooted in resilience, wisdom, and hope. That is what bouncing back stronger truly means. Reflection. Before we conclude this audiobook, take a few quiet moments to reflect. Ask yourself, which lesson has impacted me the most? What setback has become easier to understand after this journey? Which new habit will I begin practicing today? How will I respond differently the next time life doesn't go according to my plans? What kind of legacy do I want my resilience to leave for others? Allow these questions to stay with you. Some answers may come today. Others may unfold over the weeks and months ahead. Action step. Today, make one simple commitment. Choose one lesson from this audiobook that you will intentionally practice over the next 30 days. Write it down. Place it somewhere you'll see it every morning. Then ask yourself each evening, did I live this lesson today? Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Small acts, repeated faithfully, create extraordinary transformation over time. Key takeaways. Your setbacks are chapters, not the conclusion of your story. Resilience is built through consistent daily choices. Every challenge carries an opportunity to grow in wisdom and character. Your experiences can become encouragement for others. Your greatest comeback begins the moment you choose to keep moving forward. Inspirational closing. One day, someone may ask you how you became so resilient. They may wonder how you remained hopeful through difficult seasons. They may admire the confidence you now carry. And perhaps you'll smile quietly. Not because life was always easy, but because you learned something priceless. You learned that strength isn't found in avoiding setbacks. It's found in rising after them. Again, and again, and again. May you continue walking with courage when the road feels uncertain. May you choose hope when fear speaks loudly. May you remain humble enough to keep learning and brave enough to keep growing. And may every challenge you face become another reason to believe that your best chapters are still ahead. Final reflection. Take a deep breath. Think back to where you were when this audiobook began. Perhaps you arrived carrying disappointment, uncertainty, or questions about whether you could truly recover from life's setbacks. Now consider everything you've explored. You discovered that setbacks often contain hidden lessons. You learned that healing comes before rebuilding. You rebuilt confidence through small, consistent actions. You embraced a mindset that values growth over perfection. You saw how daily habits quietly shape extraordinary lives. You recognized that courage is choosing action even when fear remains. You practiced letting go of the past without forgetting its lessons. You reconnected with purpose. You appreciated the strength found in healthy relationships. You accepted ownership of your future. You built a foundation for lifelong resilience. And finally, you recognized that every new day gives you another opportunity to begin again. Imagine applying these lessons not just for a week or a month, but for an entire year. Imagine the conversations you'll handle differently, the opportunities you'll pursue with greater confidence, the setbacks you'll recover from more quickly, the peace you'll experience because you no longer measure your life by one difficult moment. Transformation rarely happens in a single breakthrough. It happens through thousands of small decisions made with intention. As you leave this audiobook, Remember that resilience isn't a destination you arrive at once. It's a way of living, and every day gives you another chance to practice it. Complete audiobook summary. Over the course of this audiobook, we've taken a journey through 12 connected lessons, each one building upon the last. Together, they form a practical roadmap for recovering from setbacks and becoming stronger because of them, not despite them. Let's revisit each chapter and see how they come together into one unified message. Chapter 1. Every setback has something to teach. We began by changing the way we see failure. Instead of viewing setbacks as evidence that we aren't capable, we learned to see them as teachers. Every disappointment contains information if we're willing to look for it. Rather than asking, "Why did this happen to me?" we learned to ask, "What can this teach me?" That simple shift transforms failure from an ending into the beginning of growth. Chapter 2. Give yourself permission to heal. Next, we explored the importance of healing before rebuilding. Ignoring pain doesn't make us stronger. It often causes hidden wounds that affect future decisions. By acknowledging disappointment, processing difficult emotions, and giving ourselves time to recover, we create a healthier foundation for future success. Healing isn't weakness. It's preparation. Chapter 3. Rebuilding confidence one small step at a time. Confidence isn't something we're born with or something we magically regain overnight. It's earned through action. We discovered that small victories create momentum. Every promise you keep to yourself, every habit you practice, and every courageous action you take becomes another brick in the foundation of lasting confidence. Chapter 4. The mindset that changes everything. Our perspective shapes our experience. When we view setbacks as permanent, we stop trying. When we view them as temporary lessons, we remain open to growth. This chapter reminded us that while we can't control every circumstance, we can always choose the mindset we bring into it. Chapter 5. Small habits create extraordinary comebacks. Major transformations rarely happen through dramatic moments. They happen through ordinary daily choices. A single healthy habit may seem insignificant today, but repeated over months and years, it changes the direction of an entire life. Consistency is often more powerful than intensity. Chapter 6. Courage is moving forward while fear walks beside you. Fear doesn't disappear simply because we want it to. But courage allows us to move anyway. We learned that confidence often follows action, not the other way around. Waiting until we feel fearless usually means waiting forever. Progress belongs to those who take the next step despite uncertainty. Chapter 7. Letting go of the past without forgetting the lessons. The past deserves our attention, but not our permanent residence. We explored the importance of forgiving ourselves, releasing unnecessary regret, and separating our mistakes from our identity. The lessons remain. The burden does not have to. Chapter 8. Finding purpose that outlasts every setback. Purpose gives meaning to perseverance. Goals help us know where we're going. Purpose reminds us why the journey matters. When challenges arise, purpose becomes the compass that keeps us moving forward. Chapter 9. The strength you find in the people around you. No meaningful journey is completed entirely alone. Healthy relationships encourage growth, provide perspective, and remind us that we don't have to carry life's burdens by ourselves. At the same time, we also discovered the importance of becoming a source of encouragement for others. Resilience grows stronger when it's shared. Chapter 10. Taking ownership of your next chapter. The past may influence your story, but it doesn't control your future. Ownership means focusing on what you can control rather than becoming trapped by what you cannot. Every new decision becomes another opportunity to write a better chapter. The pen is still in your hands. Chapter 11. Building lifelong resilience for every season. Resilience isn't built during the storm. It's built before it. Through gratitude, adaptability, learning, healthy habits, meaningful rest, and hope, we prepare ourselves for whatever tomorrow may bring. Life will always include changing seasons. Strong foundations help us remain steady through them all. Chapter 12. Your greatest comeback begins today. Finally, we brought everything together. We discovered that resilience isn't one dramatic comeback. It's a lifelong practice. It's choosing hope over despair, growth over comfort, action over fear, purpose over distraction, again and again. Your greatest comeback begins every morning you choose to keep moving forward. One unified message. If there is one truth that connects every chapter of this audiobook, it is this. Setbacks do not determine the quality of your life. Your response to them does. You cannot prevent every disappointment. You cannot avoid every failure. You cannot predict every challenge. But you can decide to learn. You can choose to heal. You can continue growing. You can strengthen your habits. You can live with purpose. You can surround yourself with people who lift you higher. You can take ownership of your future. You can build resilience one day at a time. And every one of those decisions becomes another step toward a stronger, wiser version of yourself. 7-Day Success Challenge. Knowledge becomes transformation only when it is applied. So before returning to your daily routine, I'd like to invite you to spend the next 7 days putting these lessons into practice. Don't worry about doing everything perfectly. Simply commit to taking one intentional step each day. Day 1. Reflect on your greatest lesson. Set aside 20 minutes. Write about one setback that changed your life. Instead of focusing only on what happened, write down 3 lessons that experience taught you. End by answering this question. How has this experience made me stronger? Day 2. Take one courageous step. Choose one task you've been avoiding because of fear. Make the phone call. Send the application. Start the project. Have the conversation. Don't wait until you feel confident. Let action build confidence. Day 3. Build one keystone habit. Choose one small habit that supports the future you want. Keep it simple enough that you can realistically repeat it every day. Remember, consistency matters more than intensity. Day 4. Reconnect with someone who matters. Reach out to someone who has encouraged you or positively influenced your life. Thank them sincerely. Then encourage someone else who may need support today. Strength multiplies when it's shared. Day 5. Release what you cannot control. Take a sheet of paper and divide it into 2 columns. On one side, list everything you're worrying about that is outside your control. On the other side, Write everything you can control. Choose one action from the second column and complete it today. Day 6. Revisit your purpose. Read your personal purpose statement or create one if you haven't already. Ask yourself, did my actions this week reflect the person I'm trying to become? If not, identify one small adjustment you can make tomorrow. Day 7. Celebrate progress and plan ahead. Take time to celebrate your effort. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've begun moving in the right direction. Then write 3 commitments you will continue practicing over the next 30 days. Small commitments practiced consistently become life-changing habits. Motivational closing. As we come to the end of this audiobook, remember this. Your life will never be defined by the number of times you fall. It will be shaped by the number of times you choose to rise. There will still be difficult days. There will still be uncertainty. There will still be moments when you question yourself. That is part of being human. But now you carry something you may not have had before. A deeper understanding that setbacks are not signs to stop. They are invitations to grow. Trust the process. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate progress, no matter how small. Continue learning. Continue showing up. Continue becoming. Years from now, you may look back and realize that the moments you once wanted to erase became the very moments that built your greatest strengths. Keep moving forward. One step, one lesson, one day at a time. That is how resilient lives are built. Final call to action. If this audiobook has encouraged you, challenged your thinking, or helped you see setbacks in a new light, I'd love to invite you to take one more small step. Please like this video if you found it valuable. Subscribe to the channel for more original motivational and personal development audiobooks designed to help you grow in every season of life. If you know someone who's facing a difficult chapter right now, consider sharing this audiobook with them. Sometimes one encouraging message arrives at exactly the right time. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us your biggest insight or your favorite lesson from this audiobook. Your experience may inspire someone else who is reading the comments today. Thank you for spending this time learning and growing with us. Thank you for choosing to spend part of your day with us. Your willingness to invest in your personal growth is something to be proud of, and I hope the ideas you've heard today continue to encourage you long after this audiobook ends. Remember, meaningful change rarely happens all at once. It grows through small choices, consistent effort, and the courage to keep moving forward, even when the path isn't easy. Wherever you are on your journey, may you continue to grow in wisdom, resilience, confidence, and purpose. We look forward to sharing more inspiring audiobooks with you in the future. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing that your best chapters are still ahead. Thank you for listening, and goodbye. The end.